Hey, I'm Sasha, and this is Joy is on the Menu. Today's essay was first published November 30th, 2022. It's called Less Crummy More of the Time. One thing I've learned is that my mind body has a few different modes. Life is better when I remember to A, consciously choose which mode I want to be in, and then B, do what it takes to get into that mode over and over and over again. Sometimes just noticing I'm in an unpreferred mode and mentally changing the channel works. Like, universe, please help me feel grateful for my life as it is today, with a snap or a clap. Sometimes thinking of a fluffy duck works. Sometimes going into service mode, looking for a small way to be useful to someone else, is a quick fix. Ask the store clerk how their day is going, make my husband a cup of tea, call that person, compliment someone. Sometimes it takes more than that. A hot bath usually helps. There are so many books and podcasts and workshops and courses these days peddling recipes for mental health or stress management or personal growth or whatever you want to call it. I call it feeling less crummy more of the time so I can show up for life less crummy more of the time. And my experience is it's doable. So, it's so funny reading these essays, and I'm here with my BFF, Holly Ridgway, who is a positivity coach and manifestation expert. And Holly's like, just pick an old essay, any essay, and I'll have something to say about it. And it's almost painful to look at my past aspiration of feeling less crummy compared to kind of your goals for your clients and where I'm living most of the time now, which is feeling
Pretty good.
honestly, it's like embarrassing to say, like I feel really good a lot of the time. And yeah, it's funny. You and I were both like, can we say that in public? Do we
Yeah,
just have to hide feeling good?
part of me still feels like I'm going to be punished for how much I live my life in a really happy, frame of mind without, having earned it or really worked hard for it. And
But we have earned
I
it.
will say my younger life, I certainly did. I put in the suffering. I think that was required. My allotted requirement of suffering has been fulfilled. And what I liked about this blog, and what we say a lot, is that the blogs do seem repetitive because it is the daily permission slip to allow yourself to choose a
Mm.
better thought, to choose more well-being. This particular one, though, you kept talking about these different strategies that you would use, and I'd say that they were bringing you back into the moment, back into presence.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I love that you give us all permission to say, yes, I would like to feel good. I would like to feel joyful, and that's okay. And even though I'm terrified to admit that, I'm going to admit it anyway and see what happens. And in all these blogs that are basically about that, I don't come out and say that that's the goal, right? Like less crummy more of the time.
Mhm.
That's a kind of, meh. I mean, it's all right, but it's not the big chocolate cake with full a la mode frosting. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think that that is part of most people's journey on the way to how much well-being can I handle more of the time. And, I'm always sharing with everybody I've ever worked with, and thank you, Gay Hendricks, who's a friend and longtime teacher of mine, who brought up the upper limit problem that we
Mm.
have a thermostat setting for how much well-being we can handle before we sabotage it in some way. And in psychology, they've called it sabotage for decades. And really, who cares? Because the point is, can you, turn your thermostat setting up to handle more well-being more of the time? And you go, oh yeah, sure, great, bring it on. But really, it's not that easy.
Right. And there are blocks to that. Like, good point. Like, how Do you raise your happiness set point, if you will? And why bother, right? I mean, for me, the first part is, why would anyone want to feel better? Like,
I'm
I'd rather make more money and have a better butt.
I'm
Like,
getting stuff done.
that's the whole goal. Like, I just want to be productive. And I think that's why this is called Joy is on the Menu, because it was like, oh, the menu I received, that wasn't even a choice. Like, what?
Mhm.
Some people have that as a goal?
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point because it can also speak to the fact that because a lot of people do have that. Like, if I'm enjoying myself, I'm not going to get anything done.
Right.
And so having like can I get stuff done and then put aside a joy, right? Because my main
Right,
course,
right. My main course is productivity. My main course is,
yeah.
being a stand-up guy or gal.
Mhm.
My main course is all these external markers of success.
And the side of joy starts out with, can I feel less crummy, right? That
Right.
So that's your side of joy until you start thinking like, whoa, people are eating that as an entree? Hold up.
I do remember I met this person. It was my junior year abroad in college. And, I was on that track in college, but still young. But I met a man who I think he taught water skiing in Greece during the summer
Hmm.
and snow skiing in Switzerland during the winter.
Hmm.
And he was not, I mean, he didn't look like an alien. He looked like an actual human person with like two legs and two arms. But I talked to him, and like that is what his career was
Uh-huh.
for like a decade. He supported himself doing those things. And I was
Hmm.
mystified.
And it added something new to your menu, right? Because
Well,
then,
not really. I mean,
yeah,
no.
so that guy's crazy. I could never do that.
I don't know. I think maybe I thought he was like a hedge fund manager in secret on the side. Like no one would do that.
That's funny. I remember the first time that I had like a clue that I didn't have to live in a dirty, gigantic city, which I lived in Dallas. And no, it wasn't, oil fields and horses like they thought.
Did you know JR?
Exactly. This is what I would get precisely.
And who's that other one? Charlene?
Even know.
Okay.
But it was, no, I was driving to work in the 10 lanes of traffic and dealing with downtown and billboards and, all the things, overcrowding and in a melting pot of society and not come from the best childhood. So I remember I was actually on my way to Burning Man. And that was a whole far out thing too. And that was a process to even get to that point. But we stopped at a little town in Colorado at a grocery store to get some things, still on our way to Nevada from Texas. And the air was so crisp and cool and dry. And there were mountains in the distance and trees and flowers that I hadn't seen before. And people were just going in and out and like buying their milk for
They
the
just
day.
live
They
there. They
just
buy milk. They live.
it was
That's
mind blowing to me at the time. It really did put it on the menu. And guess what? I did end up living in Colorado later in my life, in Telluride, Colorado, no less. The most beautiful place in all of Colorado. But it definitely that day put something new on my menu as I was waiting for them to come out of the store. I was blown away that that existed. And since then, tons of things have been put on the menu, like what you're talking about. Again, living in Telluride, it's normal for people to be guides in the summer and ski instructors in the winter, and then they leave for the off season. And
right. Living in multiple places is something some people do and some people enjoy doing. And it doesn't make them bad loser dropouts.
well, there's tons of locals who
Well,
actually
maybe
live
some.
there year round,
Uh-huh.
but there's a month of off season in between the summer and winter seasons there, and they would save up their money and go take a trip for a month. And that was just, again, that would blow my mind. And when I started actually traveling, and I would, like here recently, I'm going to go to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, I think is how it all began. And I was like, who do you think you are? And I thought, well, this is normal in the town that I've been living in.
I remember talking to you on the phone from Costa Rica and talking to you about how it was going, and you were doing some tarot card readings for people, and you were doing some energy work with people, and you had
Taught
your
coaching.
coaching clients remote, and you were like, I have to get home to Santa Fe. And I was like, why? And you were like, well, I've been gone for 10 days. And I was like, but you're doing all the things that you would be doing there, except you're somewhere you're telling me you love
Very happy.
being.
I was so happy. Obviously, something's wrong.
Oh, maybe I do just want to stay here. Maybe I do.
Yeah.
It wasn't like on the menu. You needed someone else to kind of say, huh,
Mhm.
it doesn't sound like the world would end or you would be, ostracized from society if you stayed where you want to be.
I felt very irresponsible though, right? I mean, because
Really?
it's all about raising the thermostat, truly.
Okay. So the stages of realizing, huh, maybe I would like to be happy, and then,
Mhm.
maybe it's possible that someone like me could feel better more of the time.
Mhm.
And then, gee, I would be interested in finding out how to go about doing that. I'm going to do a little research, maybe read a book, maybe talk to some folks, maybe listen to a podcast, and then actually doing it. And I think this post is I'm bragging that I'm doing some of the things and they're working. Like, oh my gosh, like I was hungry and I ate something and I felt better. Like it's a miracle. And you and all your buddies are like, whatever, doing quantum physics and matter is doesn't matter, and I'm just like, if you are hungry and you eat a sandwich,
Getting back to basics.
you will feel better. This is magic.
I'm with you on the basics. That much is true. But more than that, you were talking about choice points in your day. And that's where I felt like you keep talking about having presence with things. Um,
Mhm.
making the choice point of I could have a better thought right now. And
Well, that's the easiest, least expensive way to feel better more of the time, I think, is
right.
to just notice and say, what story am I telling myself and how is it making me feel? And how could I rewrite this moment to feel better?
Although that can certainly be easier said than done because oftentimes, stuff is happening and it's been hard before, so it's definitely going to be hard now. Instead of like what I've recently experienced with you is a number of different times saying, I wonder if I could have a new experience.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that is some sexy stuff. I am loving it.
I'm open to having a new experience with
Mhm.
the pickup line today. I'm open to having a new experience with scooping my dog's poop today. Just
And the
these,
pickup line being from picking the kiddo up from school,
oh
not
yeah.
other pickup lines. Although you could have
What's
a
the
new
pick?
experience
Oh,
of
I didn't even, oh my gosh, I am so in mom mode. It didn't even occur to me. A new experience with the pickup line. Huh. Yeah, that too, I
that
guess. But
too.
I was just talking about picking up my kid from school, and there's all these rageaholics trying to get in front. And
No, that's the juicy question. That's everything. I wonder what else is possible here. And
Mhm.
that's kind of my go-to.
Yeah, and I have a client friend who was really anxious at work. And she'd call me and she'd say, well, my boss doesn't delegate enough and he's always stressed. And I can see how if he just delegated more, it would be so much better. And then my coworkers, they don't do a good job. They're always terrible. And so that means my boss doesn't feel comfortable delegating to them. And I kind of try to tell them,
This means that means
they're
that
doing
means
a
that.
bad job, but then they're mad at me. And I was like, well, what if What if none of that was any of your business and your only business was to witness them and be pleasant to them and do your job? Like, how would that feel? And she was like, I'd be a lot more relaxed. And I was like, yeah, you would.
Can you add it
Just
to the menu?
just take care of your own inner and outer doings and let them take care of themselves and watch what a better day you're going to have.
Mhm. And that's why it's so valuable to have a coach or a counselor is
There's
because we
that.
don't have those things on our menu. Can I add it to my menu? I didn't know that was available,
Right.
that
I
I
could,
didn't have to manage things
right,
and people and
be constantly improving everyone and everything. Just fix, 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 fix.
and then understanding that we can, we feel like we have identity and purpose and value when we do those things. So who would I be if I wasn't? Am I allowed to relax? Am I allowed to feel crummy less of the time? Right. Those are the challenges that you come up again. You're still as valuable. You're still as
Well,
wise and intelligent to notice everything, and that if only they'd listen to you, you'd have a solution. You're still that person, but you get to relax.
yeah, yeah. And I would argue my experience is that being a more relaxed person with more compassion in the world actually makes me a more valuable player according to the value system that's important to me, which is allowing myself and others to feel better more of the time. And I think that feeling good reaps good results.
Yes, and like you said, or they can feel bad. They can do whatever they want to do. I'm not responsible for somebody else's mood. I mean, how many times in childhood did we learn I am responsible for everybody's mood? So again, it's just this funny thing about letting ourselves off the hook and being okay that you're enough, you're whole, and you're complete, even if you're enjoying yourself and, like you said, minding your own business. And especially though you were getting to that, like when you are in that space, the ripple of the pebble you cast in the pond is way more coherent, and it generally affects everybody around you in a better way.
And that's why it is so important for you to be here and for us to be here and for all of us to be walking this path together and remembering that joy is on the menu. And I hope you choose it today.